Hi all, good evening. It's Scotty, S3 Model Works, and I am here to bring you guys a short update on my little scratch building project, which has turned into a lot more than a scratch building project. It's a super detailing project, but I'm scratch building part of the interior for this model right here. ICM's T-34 76mm gun. Cool kit. Cool kit. So I'm going to try and do this all on camera and show you guys. Basically, I'm going to peel it apart a little bit like an onion and show you the different stages. But here we go. So enjoy. I'm pretty excited about this because I'm both pleased and pleasantly surprised at my ever-increasing skill levels. Not perfect and certainly not the caliber of some of the other modelers that I see on other sites and channels, but I'm having a hell of a lot of fun doing it, and that's what I got back into the hobby for. So let's have a look. All right, here we go. So anyway, this thing started basically, and I'm going to show you the back first, just because I didn't want to look through a blank tank. So you'll see more of this as we begin to unskin it, but what it really started with was I wanted to leave the front driver's hatch open, but I didn't want to stare through, again, that back wall. So I started with the back wall in there, and I'm going to peel it apart here, like I said. This did have a partial interior on it. It's basically got the gun breech and block, along with the coax machine gun over here on the right, and some sighting and elevation and trunnion type equipment on it. So anyway, nothing particularly fancy about any of that. I did take the opportunity to skin out and just add a little bit of lip detail there, just because it sort of creates a visual presence as you peek through that front hatch where you can see the back half of the ellipse of the circle there. So anyway, that's the turret. And I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but on these back vents and stuff, can you see any of that white work that I did in there? Because I skinned the whole interior, and you can probably see part of that, of the white up here. So anyway, let's peel this thing back, and this should be hopefully a relatively impressive view. As I begin to pull it all back, you'll begin to see a part of the reveal. So, anyway, let's get the top out of here so we can actually take a little closer look, and we'll come back to the top in a minute. So, here's what I ended up with. Like I said, the partial interior basically came with 2 slew levers, 2 seats, and the coax machine gun that fits up front there. Everything else in white, metal, or gray, or copper that you see in here, I've scratch built. So I just laid this channel down in the back, just because I had some extra channel. Put down a little floor plate. I added some of the slew lever, what I'm thinking are cables or rods, along with the rudder pedals, which I scratch built up there. Hopefully get a pretty decent shot of those guys up there, along with the air start bottles, which I also did. And I'm not sure if you guys can pick out any of that detail or not, but up here in this corner, I actually managed to get pigtails on those guys. I also found a couple little, these are, if I'm not mistaken, they're oversized and they're either out of scale, or I'm not quite sure what they are, but I thought they were trim wheels for a BF 109G and 148 scale, which I also stole a piece of bulkhead for that, so I can do the instrument cluster below the driver's portion. So anyway, added the cables. I added the continuation of what would be the escape hatch, which is basically just shown right there, but I just sort of detailed it up in the middle. It was my understanding that most of the time the Russian tankers, because they spent so much time in their tanks, that was their loo, their potty, their urinal, their defecant point. So I'm not sure how you guys feel about these. basically I just wanted to kind of to give an overall improvement to the look of the interior of this. I wasn't looking to replicate anything, but some of the reference photos are pretty good inside that tank because there's several still around, and they seem to be pulling them out of bogs in central Russia by the year. So anyway, that's where I ended up with the hull. And you can see here, I've also done here, these are supposed to be ammo holders. I believe there's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think these were actually double stacked and spring loaded, but I couldn't find a good reference picture of them. So I even created a little blank here that even says blank, but I don't know if you guys can read it or not. But anyway, that was just to size these pigs out, and I think it's actually a little bit small, but it might actually fit in here. Oh, and it does. Oh, look at that. So there's my blank sitting up there. But anyway, that's where 8 of the rounds would have been stowed anyway. The rest of this floor area in here was usually reserved for ammo boxes, probably anywhere between about 6 and 8 of them. They just literally stacked them in here all up against this back wall. And speaking of back walls, let's take a look at the upper interior. This is going to be a lot harder to show you guys because it's hard to interpret upside down. But here's a little bit of what I looked at. And really, like I said, what I was trying to do was sort of just give you something else to look at through that window. And as it turns out, there's quite a bit to look at. I had previously done a scratch build of a radio system, which is down here in this little corner down here. I made it entirely too wide, so basically you guys can kind of see there. I sort of cut it in half, glued a back piece on it, and said, "Yeehaw, let's go." Here's the other section of the BF-109G that I ingeniously glued on here backwards because it was the same shape as the cutout on here, and I'm going to use that to form the triple gauge dash cluster that sat below the driver's portion right here. The gun, the coax gun, is going to hang a little bit out here in front of the radio, and I also did a couple other little radio things down here as well. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but the other radio is going to mate up just on this side of it, just up above it right here. And I honestly think that's all the detail that I'm going to put in here. I might find a couple of small bags. I would like to try and scratch build. There's a couple of other dash panels that go on this side. This is a little two cluster gauge set that I did, and I would like to do a couple of more panels, probably either electrically related or maybe do some gauge work on there, which would be additional instrument control for the driver and the tank operator. But basically this is just 10,000 sheet. This might even be 20,000th. No. Parts of it are 20, like the wall. Most everything I did thin-skinned is 10,000th in there. But as you can see, I just gave it some different visual detail. Added a pipe, a conduit pipe, and both a hard, looked like a galvy pipe with some wire running across there to my other little electrical type box. These are supposed to be either my interpretation of coils, regulators, and or maybe oil and water filter traps, but I did one up here and one down here. Added just a little bit of ribbing to the inside right here just to sort of set it apart a little bit. But let me slip it back together and I'll show you guys some of the view, because I was rather taken by the views that are available in the tank. Even with the turret off, you can actually see more than a fair bit of my work, which is neat, because that means I didn't go through it all for nothing. But excuse my gaposis here in the front. I'm going to close that up so you guys can see, and I will try and give you a 360 view of what we got going on here. So anyway, there's that boring back wall that I was talking about. You can see some of the ammo hangers there through the window. It's very hard to see anything else in there just because of the darkness. But I thought that was a pretty good view, and I still do think that's a pretty good, cool view. So anyway, as you can see, there's a fair bit of this that is visible. There's part of my radio. Hey, you actually can see it, and the little relay panel down below it. So, nice. You can kind of see one of my little coil interpretations right there. And then other than that, I think that about concludes this tour. So anyway, this has been a really, really fun build so far, and I'm enjoying it. I still have a fair bit of work to do on it, most of it external details, but on the inside, really the only thing I have left to do is I want to finish fabbing out. I actually have the gauges already done, but the gauge cluster that's going to go right here, and then I'm going to run some ancillary wires up both sides and down through these conduits, which will replicate some of the electrical supply in there, I hope. And I think as you're peeking down through that portion in there, which I forgot to show you guys, that's actually one of the cooler views, because when you can see that, you'll be able to see the seats, the slew levers. There is a piece over there as well that I forgot to show you guys, but it's a scratch-made shifter, a true two-stage transmission. But very, 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 very neat kit. Some people don't care for the ICM stuff, but I gotta tell you, I'm not unimpressed. So, anyway, coming to you almost live from Scotty Scale Studio, I am Scott, and this is S3 Model Works. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, tuning in. If you care, please like, share, subscribe, drop me a comment, drop me a like, ask a question. I'd love to hear from you guys. Interaction's great. I kind of dig that between a lot of the Facebook type web pages and what have you. So anyway, you guys take care. I'm working tomorrow, so I probably won't be getting too much of this done until later in the evening. But I wish you guys the best, and happy day tomorrow, and enjoy. And we've got a weekend coming up, so let's enjoy that too. Alright, I'm Scott. Peace out. You guys be well.